Owning Space is a women's health podcast reclaiming the narrative, helping women take up more space in society, in their bodies, and in their stories. Hosted by me, Annika Hindocha. Each episode explores a topic that's often dismissed, misunderstood, or considered too uncomfortable to discuss. My mission is to break the silence around the struggles so many women are told to push through or hide. From burnout to fertility challenges, endometriosis to ADHD, sexual trauma to MS, and more. We unpack how these experiences shape us differently, and how so many of us learn to mask the pain and just keep going. It's raw, real, and necessary, because silence helps no one, and it's time to change the way we talk about women's health, one honest conversation at a time. My guest today is someone whose courage, honesty, and advocacy have struck a chord with so many people. Gabriella Pearson, or Gabz as she's known, is a leading voice in menstrual and mental health. She's the co-founder of the Menstrual Health Project, and she uses her platform to share not only knowledge, but also her own story. That story is not an easy one. Gabz lives with adenomyosis, endometriosis, fibromyalgia, conditions that affect around 1 in 10 women in the UK. She's also on the spectrum for hypermobility disorder and is currently seeking diagnoses for ADHD and PMDD. Research now shows that women with ADHD are more than 3 times more likely to meet the criteria for PMDD, underlining just how connected these conditions can be. On top of this, Gabz has been through 6 surgeries, most recently a hysterectomy, after years of pain, misdiagnoses, and being pushed between private and NHS care. Her journey has included moments of dismissal, being messed around by doctors, and the kind of systemic failures that too many women still sadly recognise. The title of this episode is Hysteria, Hysterectomies, and Hope, which reflects both Gabz's lived reality and the wider history of women's health. For centuries, so-called female hysteria was one of the most common medical diagnoses given to women, rooted in the ancient belief of a wandering womb that caused illness. By the Victorian era, it was treated with everything from hypnosis to early vibrators. And while the term is no longer used in medicine today, its legacy lingers in the way women's pain is still dismissed as all in the mind. In this episode, we're going to talk about what it really means to live through that kind of journey, the physical pain, the mental toll, and the resilience it takes to keep on going. We'll also explore how a hysterectomy can change your sense of self and what needs to shift in healthcare so that women like Gabz don't have to keep fighting to be heard. Hi Gabz, it's so great to have you here. You've been navigating one of the toughest medical journeys, 6 surgeries including a hysterectomy, and yet are channeling that pain into powerful advocacy that's helping so many. Can you start by briefly sharing where you are today and how that shapes your mission?
Oh, it's been a long old journey. So it's, well, kind of full circle now. I'm nearly 2 months post hysterectomy, which has flown by. But I think for me, I didn't ever expect to be here with my health, but unfortunately that's where I am. But I started my periods at 10, which was 23 years ago nearly, and back then none of my friends had started. I felt like a little bit of an alien, a bit of an outsider. I felt very uncomfortable in my own body, and they were really painful and heavy straight away. I was missing a lot of school. I was only in year 5 going into year 6 at this time. Loved playing football when I was younger, but because I couldn't manage my periods, I just stopped playing. So by 12, my mum took me to the doctors, and the tale as old as time for a lot of us is I was just put on the pill straight away. No investigation, no red flag to think this is abnormal for a 12-year-old to be going on a contraceptive pill, and why are they experiencing these symptoms? And I think for my mum as well, back then, if a doctor's telling you that this is what you should do, that's what you're going to go with, because my mum didn't have the knowledge, and she's very open about that now, and we have a lot of discussions about it, and she feels a lot of upset and regret that maybe when I was younger she didn't investigate these things more. But again, if a doctor's saying that, that's what you're going to go with. And then all through my teen years, I really, really struggled with my menstrual health. I continued having really painful, heavy bleeding, bowel symptoms, stomach problems, and I missed a lot of high school. I also felt my mental health just completely depleting as well. And by year 11, I got really bad depression, left halfway through year 11 and did my GCSEs from home. And I did terribly because I wasn't getting the support at school from teachers. A lot of my friends didn't understand. And I always remember my mum took me to CAMS, which is the mental health service for young people. And the counsellor was horrible to me. And I just remember him going, well, what's wrong with you? Why are you depressed? What's the matter? He was like, you've got a great family, you've got friends, you're middle class, what's wrong with you? And I thought, but I don't know what's wrong with me, and I'm frustrated because I didn't have a specific reason I could pinpoint for struggling with my mental health. So when I left school, I didn't go on to college. I didn't go on to any higher education. One, because I just didn't feel confident to go to college. I remember going to look at one with my mum and explaining why I'd left in year 11, and the horror on their face. And they just said to me, I don't think this is the college for you because I don't think we can really support you. And for me, looking back now, mental health isn't something new that's come around in the last 10, 20 years. It's been around for years and years and years. We're just more aware of it now and how people were struggling with it. But it just knocked my confidence. I thought, I don't want to go to college. I don't want to do any higher education because I didn't feel I was academic enough to do anything. I was then continuing to struggle with my menstrual health, with my health in general, and all of the symptoms just kept kicking up a notch. And it was turning into pain during and after sex. The bleeding was constant outside of my period. Really, really bad bloating, back pain, erratic bowel movements, rectal bleeding, which when you're a young person, it's horrible at any age, but to be so young, experiencing things like this. And I remember getting piles for the first time. And I don't know about you when you were younger, when people used to say, oh, don't sit on a cold wall because you'll get piles. Well, you can just grow up and have endometriosis and get them anyway. So then I spent about 6 years back and forth with the GP trying to figure out what was wrong with me, being told it was IBS, it was gluten intolerances, it was stress, it was part of being a woman, just being completely dismissed and passed from pillar to post. And in this time I wasn't able to then sustain a job. I just met my husband when my symptoms had really ramped up. So it's not the most romantic thing, having erratic bowel movements and not being able to enjoy intercourse and sex and do all of these things that you want to do at the beginning of a relationship. And I remember going for my first transvaginal ultrasound, and it was so painful. I think I was 21, 22, and I just cried the whole way through it. It was so painful. And I went back to the doctors for the results, and the GP said to me, oh, they're inconclusive, so you'll have to go for another one, like it was going to get, just popping out to get milk. And I said to her, I was like, I don't think I can do it because it was so painful. And she turned around and said to me, if you really cared about your health, you'd go and have another one.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how old were you at that point?
So I was 22, and it was the first time I'd had anything invasive like that done, because it's obviously below the age where most people are having smears and I think back then it wasn't, I say normal very lightly, it wasn't the done thing for people that young to be having transvaginal ultrasounds or
I agree.
anything like that.
Yeah.
So I then spent about 6 or 7 months back and forth in A&E in absolute agony. Again, going there, being triaged, spending hours in A&E to just basically be told to take some painkillers and go home. And then my mum saw a tiny article in a newspaper about endometriosis, and she's like, I really think that you have this. Let's go and see a different GP and see what they say. And the GP I saw, who's still my GP today, and she's absolutely amazing, she said, oh, let me just look at the results from that first ultrasound just so I can kind of get up to speed. And she said, oh, looking at the results, they have put down that there's traces of endometriosis on your scan.
Wow. And you weren't told at the time of that scan?
No. So the radiographer or sonographer that did it, I'm guessing they weren't able to determine that themselves. So I'm not sure if then someone else had looked at it and put the results down, but then also the GP that I saw, the not very nice one, said it was inconclusive. So whether she wasn't skilled enough to read it, or I don't know whether it was a bit of, it must not be anything serious, like you should just be getting on with it, you're young. But it was just a horrible experience. And I think that's what kind of really kicked it into the start of that traumatic medical journey of not being listened to and not being heard. But then there's been great experiences like this second GP that kind of saved the day with the GP surgery. And straight away, she referred me to gynecology. And at the time, I didn't know that you can have a general gynecologist and specialists in certain conditions. I didn't even know any conditions, to be honest, back then.
Yeah.
I think I was very uneducated on gynecological health and menstrual health, which so many of us are at that age. And I got to see my endometriosis specialist straight away, who's still my consultant today. And he said to me that because the scan had shown traces of endometriosis, the way to diagnose it fully and the spread of endometriosis is to have keyhole surgery, a laparoscopy. Yeah. I didn't even blink. I was like, yeah, get me in. I need to know. I was petrified of what it was doing to my body, what the fertility impact would be. I couldn't work at the time. I was trying to enjoy a new relationship as well, and that was being impacted. So I had my first laparoscopy in 2016 at 23, and I had endometriosis on my bowel and my left ovary. And I was like, finally, I'm not going crazy. It made so much sense. But I don't think at that time I understood what I know now and how my life would play out. So since then, having 6 surgeries where it's continued to grow back on my bowel, my left ovary, which keep fusing together, but also my bladder and my womb as well, and then developing adenomyosis along the way, and then all of the issues and the domino effect of it. So infertility, reduced mobility, so I use mobility aids now. Mental health has been a huge thing that's really impacted for me, and I think I also put that down to things like going through chemical menopause and being on different hormonal treatments has really done me more harm than good. And I think for me, yes, they've helped in some ways with stopping the bleeding and kind of suppressing the ovary, so I'm not having periods that are painful and heavy or ovulation pain. But mentally, whilst I was going through chemical menopause, it was, I didn't feel like myself. I felt like a complete shell of a person. So it's been a difficult journey. And when I got diagnosed with adenomyosis at 24, that was on my second surgery. And I didn't even know I had it until I had that surgery. Because although it's different to endometriosis, it's similar symptoms. Everyone around me, different medical professionals, not my consultant though, he's been brilliant, but everyone else was saying, well, just have a baby, have a hysterectomy.
That will cure everything.
And it's not, it's such a myth. But back then I felt so pressured, and I was like, oh, do I just have a baby then? Me and my husband had been my now husband, we'd been together for a couple of years, and I thought, I'm not at a place where I want to do that.
Yeah.
And I think as a woman, you want to do it on your terms when you're ready. And for me, I'm really stubborn. If you tell me to do it, I don't want to do it then. I want to do it my way, because I'd felt like so many other things had been taken from me at a really young age, where in my mid-20s, I should be really enjoying myself and feeling like a mid-20s. But I didn't. I felt like I would have to make one of these decisions, and I decided not to do either one at that point, especially hysterectomy. And at that point I was like, I don't even know what hysterectomy is. I didn't know the full gravity of doing it. But now I've always felt like I'd end up having a hysterectomy. I always felt like if my adenomyosis didn't get better, and other things like my periods have continued to be really painful, ovulation has just got even worse throughout the years. So when I had my hysterectomy, I wasn't surprised, because I'd kind of been leading up to this over a few years. I don't think the grief or the sadness ever dulls of of having to do it. I think it's just different for me because it wasn't a shock, but I had to put my health first and myself.
I want to go back before we dive into the hysterectomy a bit further about what you said about, firstly, your mum being there for you when you were young and when you did start your period. And she said, you know, like she wishes she was more educated, or, you know, she wishes she had the tools to help you more in hindsight. And then what you said about when you were in your early 20s and you didn't know enough about a transvaginal ultrasound and things like that. And I just want to say that, you know, I don't think GPs and doctors even know enough research about what the conditions that you've been diagnosed with. And I obviously know a fair bit about this as well because we share quite a few of the same conditions, unfortunately so, because they all kind of ladder up and layer up and kind of work weirdly well together. We know hypermobility is linked to endometriosis and it's also linked to ADHD. So I just want to say to you that you're such a powerhouse for going through that from such a young age.
I'm really bad with compliments. I'm always like, thank you. I always like...
I'm going to be giving you a few.
Do you know what? I'm normally really bad, but then I went and saw a talk and someone was like, when someone gives you a compliment, just say thank you. So okay. I go, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, and I'm sorry that you had to go through that from such a young age.
Yeah.
With your hysterectomy, so you've explained that you had, so it was 5 surgeries before the hysterectomy.
Yes.
And your first surgery was around 2016?
26. It was the 17th of March, 2016. I always remember because it's St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, did you wear green?
Do you know what? Maybe. I think, could do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also Endometriosis Awareness Month.
Yeah,
that month
funnily
as well.
enough, isn't it?
Weirdly.
The coincidence, yeah.
So when it got to the point of your second, third surgery, were you at the point where you were in so much pain that you were just like fighting for a surgery, or was it being offered to you at that stage?
I think I've been really lucky with all of my surgeries. I've never had to fight kind of to be heard with my consultant for another surgery. It's always been, I've had a surgery, I've had very short relief in between surgeries. I feel like over the years, the relief times got less and less. So every time I'd get to that point, because you get to know your body, and I don't, whatever anybody says, you know your body best. You know exactly how you're feeling. You might not know what's causing it, but you know your body. So every time I'd get to that point, I'd go back to see my consultant and we would discuss it. And he has always been very empathetic and understanding and always letting me lead as a patient. He's giving, obviously, his expertise, but he's never trying to mansplain me or tell me what to do. So I've always been really lucky that it's been a co-production, essentially, of having these surgeries. And I remember, I think one of the worst times in terms of pain before a surgery was before my 4th surgery. So I had got to a point where I had such bad sciatic type pain, nerve pain, that I was just completely bedbound. I was so miserable as well. I wasn't able to go into the office at that time to work, so I was working from home. I remember a time I went up to Anna's, who I run the charity with, and we were having a Chinese at Christmas, and I just had to get up midway through and go and take some more morph. And at that point, I was like, I need another surgery.
Yeah.
And I just remember feeling so low. I was so stressed about work because I am someone that if I'm off sick, all I'm thinking about is work. All I'm thinking about is I feel like I'm letting other people down.
Yeah.
So that was a really horrific pain point. And then I think thereafter, each surgery, those times in between, I've been in the absolute trenches because my 4th and 5th surgery I had to go privately for because the wait times were extremely long and I was in so much pain, especially with my bowel as well. It was hell. And if I hadn't gone privately, I probably would have lost my bowel and my left ovary because they were completely fused together and stuck to my pelvis. But I only had that opportunity because my mum paid for both surgeries.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for that because not everybody gets that opportunity. But I feel like the last few years have just been an absolute fog of pain and struggle and just trying to get through. I don't really feel like I've been thriving the last few years with my health. I feel like it's just been pure survival mode.
And when you got to the point of, right, I'll have a hysterectomy, what did that point look like to you? And did it feel kind of liberating, just, you know, kind of being like, this will get me out of the pain, I won't have to go through any more surgeries if I go ahead with this? So can you talk to us about what that looked like for you?
So I decided after my surgery last year, so I had my 5th surgery February last year, and I said to my consultant, if things don't improve over last year, 2024, that I want to have a hysterectomy. Because when I had my surgery last year, he said my adenomyosis was there. It had increased a bit. And I think I just got to a point last year where I was under different departments. No one really knew what to do for me or with me or able to figure out what was wrong, whether it was urogyne, pain management, fertility had become a real stressful element in my life. Had tried naturally and it hadn't worked. I was on the fertility waiting list. But because of BMI, which is absolute crap, I would have had to lose 2 stone, which is even harder when you're 5'2", when you're short. BMI really gets you. And I wasn't at a point where I could lose that amount of weight in a safe, healthy way in the time they wanted me to.
That's a huge amount of weight. And sitting opposite you, I can't see how you would be able to lose that in...
It's not healthy either. And to me, it just breeds... when they said this, I started then constantly thinking about my body image. Like I've always been, I don't even know what the right word, curvier. Like when I was younger, I used to get all those words like chubby, puppy fat, big boned. When I was like 10, and you just think all of these things as a society that we've called people or said about people, all these words and ways is just horrible. So I've always had that in the back of my mind that I'm short, but I carry weight everywhere. I don't have a specific area. So I've always just felt not very comfortable in my own skin already. So then to be told you need to lose all this weight to have a baby. And then I felt like my health has got so much worse. I'd been diagnosed with fibromyalgia. My back is horrific. I have so much nerve pain. I had lots of different things with my health that wasn't just going to be magically fixed with a pregnancy. And practically in a real world, could I bring up a child whilst chronically ill? And everyone's each to their own how they think they can get through life. But for me, I am very analytical. I have to really think about things, and I just didn't feel like it would be fair or it would be right for me or for my husband either, who is essentially my carer 99% of the time. It's then a massive strain on him and us. And I know if we did end up having a child, we would just get through it together because we've been through so much.
Absolutely.
But I just didn't feel like having a child would be right for me anymore. So I think there was a few different factors, but then I got towards the end of last year and I was like, I just can't do this anymore. I was in the process of getting diagnosed with PMDD, and that played a part as well, because I'm not saying to people that hysterectomy is a first resort or even a second resort for PMDD. It's a very, very last resort, and it's not always a guarantee either. So for me, it was just an accumulation of different things. My periods were absolutely crippling, ovulation. And I always laugh when I see those memes where it's like luteal phase, ovulation phase. And, you know, everyone's like feeling like spicy in ovulation. I'm like, no, I feel shit. Like, I feel horrific. I don't want to do anything. And I was going from menstrual phase of horrific pain, mentally feeling okay, but the pain being horrific, my bowel just absolutely hating me. Then going into ovulation, again, painful, and then going straight into my luteal phase, but having PMDD. And I'd had it for like the full 2 weeks. They say you can have it for 1 to 2 weeks. I'd have it for the full 2 weeks, obviously, because once you've got it all. And so all month I was just not having a break. So when I spoke to my consultant in November, he was like, everything you've been through, like, this is something we discussed. If that's what you want to do now, come in and see me and we'll talk about it properly. And I appreciate him not just being like, right, we'll book it in now over the phone. So I really appreciate his duty of care to me as a patient. And then when I saw him in April this year, I had a lovely transvaginal. But a few months leading up to it, I was like, I keep getting like this really throbbing pain in my left side. And you know, when you're like, oh, it's probably just that, or it's probably just this. And when I went in and we were talking about what type of hysterectomy would I have, because again, there's different types, which I didn't realize either, and the way it works. So he said to me, did I want my ovaries removed as well? And that's when you go into surgical menopause, because the ovarian function shuts down. So you're not producing or having periods anymore. And I said to him, I was like, to be honest, if I'm coming in for hysterectomy, I just want it all out in one go. Yeah. I don't want more and more surgeries. And I thought, now with the PMDD and everything else, let's just take it all out. And he then did a transvaginal, and he said that I had an endometrioma on my left ovary that was starting to tether. And he said my left ovary would have to go anyway. So I was like, that's fine. Let's not leave the right one on its own. Let's just take them both out. Let's not leave it lonely. And then he said to me that my adenomyosis had changed from focal. So it was in one specific area. So to diffuse. So it was kind of sprinkled all the way across the front of my uterus.
Right.
And it's crazy the different skill and experience when people are doing transvaginals, because I had one before my surgery last year, and they were like, nope, everything's fine, your ovaries are all good. And then I went into surgery and my ovary and my bowel were fused. Whereas my endometriosis consultant did one, and straight away he was like, bam, endometrioma, bam, adenomyosis.
Wow. And adenomyosis is such a hard condition to treat as well, because endometriosis is obviously outside of the womb, whereas adenomyosis is within the womb. So from my experience, I've had one surgery. Hopefully I don't have to have any more in the future, but I can't rule that out.
No.
But from what I know with adenomyosis, there's not much of a treatment for it, apart from people just saying the Mirena coil or going on tablets and things like that. Post hysterectomy now, I know it's only been 2 months, and you and I spoke a few weeks ago on a call, which it was quite fresh then. How do you feel now? Is there any loss, or do you feel any different within your body? And how is your mental health doing right now?
Oh, that's a very good question. I'm very up and down, and I'm really just surrendering to that. I'm not, because a lot of people have said to me like, oh, like, how are you feeling? How's like all the pain gone? How are you feeling like mentally? Like, I'm like, I'm just, every day is so different. Even like hour by hour. 1 minute I could feel totally level. And then like I watched Jurassic Park the other day and I was sobbing when the dinosaur gets left on the island. Spoiler if anyone's not seen the Chris Pratt ones. But things like that, I'll look at my dogs and I'll just start sobbing, or I'll just get really raged for no reason. Like if my husband's breathing the wrong way or he's done something. So I feel very up and down, but I'm just very trying to just go with it. I'm not having any expectations that my pain is going or it's still here. But some things have changed a lot in terms of pain. I'm not getting this horrible like throb on my left side at the minute, but I'm getting more kind of widespread abdominal pain. I'm still getting a lot of nerve pain. Hot flushes and menopause is absolutely awful at the minute for me, but I'm still in that adjustment period. But I think it, with like any grief, it doesn't just go. I think it's not linear at all. And for me, when I made the decision last year about hysterectomy, I am a person, when I make my decision, I'm very final. I don't tend to kind of second guess myself. So I'm really firm in my decision, and I know the pros of it outweigh the cons. And the biggest con, obviously, is not being able to have children myself. But I've really leaned into having other joy in my life. And I think that's really important for people who are suffering as well, is that looking at other things that you can fill your life up with, because I'm hopefully going to be here for a very long time on this earth. I don't want to essentially waste my life being sad about something I can't change now. And I really try and do that in life, is not dwell too much on things I can't change, like being chronically ill. It is absolutely horrific. And having a hysterectomy it's not easy. And I think I really underestimated the recovery time as well, and being really gentle, because I'd still be trying to like pick things up a few weeks post-op, and my husband or my mum would be like, don't do that. And I'm like, oh, sorry. It's just a reflex for us. But yeah, I think now I'm kind of acknowledging more the grief side of it now, and some of the sadness, and then adding the neurodiversity into it as well. I can definitely feel that's a lot more like prevalent in this surgery that I've had. But I'm lucky because I have dogs, and they are like children. They are like small, demanding toddlers, I think, especially French bulldogs. So yeah, it's very up and down. It's like a roller coaster, but I'm just trying to focus on other things through it. But yeah, I'm crying a lot more than I normally do. But I am a self-proclaimed soggy Sally, I call myself.
Soggy Sally.
I love a cry, and I love being like wearing my heart on my sleeve. And I think having things like this as well really pushes you to have better communication with people around you. But the first thing I did do when I had my hysterectomy, probably like a really late night, off my face on pain meds, I was like, how much does a womb weigh? Because I was just curious.
So funny. How much does it weigh?
I can't remember now.
Oh.
Not a lot, but I was just thinking, because a few people are like, oh, do you feel like lighter? Or I was like, it doesn't really work like that. But I think it was just strange. Like when I had my hysterectomy, I was very ready for there to be potentially some endometriosis and obviously adenomyosis. But I also had some polyps, I had a fibroid, I had inflammation in my cervix, and hemorrhaging. And then my ureter, my left ureter, was completely stuck with adhesion. So I was like, oh, like I'm not really squeamish anymore. But when you hear all of that, you're like, bloody hell, like that's been in, like all of that's been in my body. And yeah, it's just a journey.
I wonder on a certain level as well, it's only been post-op 2 months, and the sense of relief, I wonder if that will set in a bit more fully over the next few months or years, because you know, touch wood, you don't need to go through anything like this again.
I really hope so.
That's over. I want to also touch on what you said about being resilient, and that's how I would see it, and how you don't dwell on things. If you hadn't had to endure this journey since, you know, when you first got your period at 10 and then going through that through your teens to your 20s into your 30s, do you think you would have been a different person if you hadn't endured that? And do you think you're way more resilient because of what you've had to deal with?
100%.
Yeah.
I really do. And I feel like I can't change it now, but I do really feel like the way certain personality traits and kind of attributes are because of what I've gone through. And I think that applies to everybody who's gone through anything traumatic or difficult. At the time, and I'm not saying, oh God, I love having endometriosis and being chronically ill, it's great. But I have to look at that. It's given me a lot of confidence. Like when I was at school, I was never shy, but I wouldn't willingly want to be up on stage in front of people or public speaking. Absolute like worst nightmare. No, thank you. But now I love it. And that's essentially what I do as a passion and part of my work. And I feel super confident with approaching healthcare, like for advocating for myself, for others. And I feel really thick-skinned, and that resilience, I just I'm not offended by a lot of things either. But I also feel that it really shapes you as to be a big empath as well. And I am a natural empath. I am a Virgo. And I know people are like, oh, star signs. But I really am a clear-cut Virgo, overthinker, perfectionist, always want to put other people first. So being chronically ill just ramps that up even more.
Yeah.
But I think it makes you think about things in other people's shoes as well and what they're going through, and just be a bit kinder and see sometimes what's not there, because a lot of chronic conditions are hidden. They're not always visible signs unless you can see it on people's bodies. So I think that it's taught me so much about my own body as well, and tracking my health and my cycle, which we're not really told to do when we're younger.
No.
So yeah, I think, I mean, my mum is probably the only one that will agree that I am very funny, but being chronically ill,
funny.
thank you. My mum always says I'm the funny child, but I feel like it gives you a good sense of humor as well. It makes you take like the morbid, dark, fucked up stuff and just put a light spin on it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what is really important to get you through things like this, is just laugh your way through it, because what else are you going to do?
And, you know, I've spoken about how we share some conditions, and that feeling of chronic pain, I think you understand if I say my back's really hurting, I'm having a back spasm and I can't get out of bed. And I think the level of pain that we need to endure as like endo warriors or people with adenomyosis and the conditions that we do have is on a different scale. And I do think sometimes when, you know, we were speaking about your husband having a cold before this episode.
Sorry, Aaron.
Well, it's just even when I get a cold or when I have something which I know is temporary, the pain for it or the kind of it, I'm so much more resilient in that sense. I just kind of pick myself up and carry on. And I think that you were so inspirational, because I think you're so tenacious and so similar in that way. I wanted to ask you, at your lowest points through this journey, we've spoken about your beautiful dogs, your husband. Where did the strength come from, and what were the things that which filled up your cup and, you know, made you get out of bed and gave you that light?
Oh, definitely Aaron and the dogs. I'm really lucky. I have a really good support system. So my mum and my sister are absolutely incredible. And like, without my mum, I would have lost organs. So I'm really grateful for that now. And we've got an amazing relationship now. And she's my biggest cheerleader. And Anna, who's my best friend, who I run Menstrual Health Project with, because it's so nice having a best friend who completely understands. And like you said, knows exactly how your pain feels. And it's just so easy. And I think the best friends are the ones that you can have zero battery with and you just have the best time. And every time I see Anna, I'm just going to speak for both of us, we just fill each other's cups up, and it's lovely having that friendship. And I have really found some amazing people within the chronic illness endometriosis community as well. But running the charity literally keeps me chugging along. I think without that, after having to stop work a few years ago, without that, I just would have no identity and no purpose for what to do with my time. And I am someone that I have to be doing, I have to be productive, I have to keep channeling all my energy into something, because I am very all or nothing. I'm either in bed, can't speak to anyone, completely debilitated, or I'm 100 miles an hour. There's absolutely no middle ground. And I do need to learn that. I'm not very good at pacing. But that really fills me up so much, is running the charity. Having a sense that doing it for me is really therapeutic. It's my form of therapy and healing as I'm going along. But it's also great to know that I can help other people and really make change for people as well. And for myself, because my health journey's not stopped. It's continuing. I'm struggling with accessing pathways and other symptoms and conditions now after a hysterectomy as well, and during, and having problems with dismissal and other issues within the healthcare system. So that's what drives me, is that I don't want it for myself, but I don't want it for other people. But there are still days that I don't want to do anything. I really, really struggle with my mental health, especially since figuring out that I've got PMDD. And I would say one thing with having a hysterectomy, that is considerably reduced. Although I kind of swapped it for menopause, having PMDD and then also trying to be diagnosed with ADHD is honestly just like two people just constantly fighting in your head. And I got to some points where I was like, I could just pack it all in. I could divorce my husband. I could just never have any friends again. I could just leave the charity. I could just curl up in my bed and just crumble. But I'm lucky that people keep me going as well. And I never used to communicate how I felt. I never used to share it because I have always been that person. Don't want to make a fuss. Don't want to let on. I don't want any attention, any focus on me. I want to be that person for other people. But I can't always do that, especially if I'm not feeling my best either.
Yeah.
So I've really try to lean into that as well, as being really open about how I'm feeling and not feeling ashamed of it, because so many of us suffer in silence, whether it's our physical health or our mental health, and it just makes you more unwell.
And I think it's having that capacity, as you speak about, like there'll be days where you don't have the capacity to help someone or to listen, but just being open with that kind of boundary. And I think people respect that a lot more. I want to go into your advocacy further, but before we do, I want to talk about the dismissal that you've spoken about along throughout your journey. And you've been seen by the NHS as well as in private. What are the biggest contrasts between both that you found?
Food.
Really?
Food. I know that's really trivial and like
so
not
funny.
that important, but that's the thing I always go to first. I'm like, oh my God, private food is so nice.
They give you sparkling water as well. That's what I went for one scan once and they were like,
best.
water? And I was like, yes, please, sparkling or still. And I was like, what?
You're like,
sorry,
pardon?
what? And you can tell that you're private.
Yeah, I would say the food. Oh, I would have stayed in there the whole time. I remember when I had my first private surgery, and when you go NHS for surgeries, it's very much have your surgery, get in, get out, have a wee, have a cup of tea, and then you're being discharged. Private, my consultant came in and was like, you're staying the night, aren't you? I was like, no, I'm going home later. And he's like, but it's included within the cost.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, but I was like, no, it's fine. Again, like, don't want to make a fuss. I'll just go home. And he was like, I think you should stay. And I was like, okay. Because when they were doing like the food menus, I was like, I won't be here later, so I don't need this. And then they were like, I'll just order them anyway, just in case. The food, lovely. For me, I've had my consultant for my NHS and my private surgeries. And I have to say with him, whichever one, the care's been exactly the same with him. So I'm really lucky that I've had continuity of a consultant for 10 years, because not many people get that. So I am really grateful that I have him, because I hear some real horror stories, or I've heard stories where people have gone privately, paid a lot of money and had really bad experiences. And that really boils my piss. It makes me really angry. I would just say that in terms of the difference is that you have more dedicated care. So you have more of a dedicated nurse, where obviously the NHS are very underfunded, understaffed, and overworked the staff as well. So sometimes I remember having must have been my third surgery. I was waiting probably over an hour for someone to come and take me to the toilet, because I didn't have a catheter in either. And I was like, I am going to piss myself in a minute. But I think it's more just there's not enough staff. I think just little things like that. But generally, when I've been in for surgeries, at NHS, I've had pretty good care. When I had my hysterectomy, I had a catheter in then as well, and they were constantly checking. I remember I had some not great things happen after my surgery, and I was really upset, and they were very caring, very empathetic. But I am one of those people when I'm in hospital, I try not to press my button too much, because I always feel like I'm being a nuisance. It's so silly. But I would say my experience for both hasn't been too dissimilar, because of having the continuity of my consultant.
And I think, it's important to say that it is a privilege to be able to go private. And, I had to in the end with my endometriosis surgery, which wasn't my choice.
You shouldn't have to.
I shouldn't have to, but I was on the waiting list for over 2 years at that point, because it was in that awkward COVID period. And if I, were to do it again, I probably would have waited for that NHS, in all honesty. But I don't think it sounds like from your experience, there's not a different level of the actual care that you got from your surgeons or the people supporting you.
Yeah, my consultant is incredible. So yeah, I've personally been lucky, but I know a lot of people's experiences are very, very different. And to me, it shouldn't matter in terms of if you go private or not. To me, private is a way to access something quicker.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that the level of care should be different, but unfortunately it does happen. But I wish, and people always say to me, if you could go back and change anything in your life, I'd go all the way back and say to my younger self or to my mum, can you please take out private healthcare? So then when I'm older, I can use it, because I feel so guilty that my mum's had to pay for 2 surgeries, which equate to about 15 grand. And she was ready to pay for my hysterectomy if I needed it as well. She'd started saving, because I'm not in a position. I don't have that sort of money.
Shout out to your mum.
And I thank you, Marie. You're amazing.
She's incredible. She's a superstar.
And I feel really guilty again. And she's like, "What's the point of having money in the bank if I can help my children with it? Like, if I can help you out and help your health." She's like, "I'm not going to see you suffer with your health and have organs removed if I knew I could help you with that." So,
I mean, health is the most important thing. That's exactly what my parents said to me. I, couldn't get off the floor of my bathroom at one point. I think my dad was like, "I'll pay for the scan. Just go for a scan." So I want to go into masking pain, and with the conditions that you've been diagnosed with over the last 20 years, there must be a level of you masking certain things. And I know that you've got undiagnosed ADHD. I know, again, that comes with a lot of masking and probably subconsciously. Do you think on a level now that that's still the case, or because you've come so far in your journey that you've banished the need to mask anything when you're with people?
No, I feel like I still masks, definitely subconsciously and consciously. Like I said before, I am that person where I don't want to feel like I'm making a fuss, which always sounds really silly. Like, I had a really bad flare the other night, horrific. I was in the bath. It was like midnight. My husband was at work, and I messaged my mum and was like, "Are you awake?" And she didn't answer. And she always says to me, "Just ring me." And I didn't ring her because I just didn't want to bother her, which is so silly because it's my mum at the end of the day as well. She's like, "Just ring me." She's like, "I don't care if you wake me up." But I do mask a lot. I think that is a big drive for why I do it, because I just would rather just seem like I'm fine and kind of get on with things. I feel like I don't want people to have to like adapt or change things for me. I just want to like slip into something, do it, and then go, because I feel like if I have any of these things, are people going to think I'm difficult or kind of have a different negative opinion on me, which again is really silly, because when you are chronically ill, that you do need adaptations, you do need things done differently sometimes, whether it's when you're traveling or going anywhere, or just even things at home or work or with friends. But I think I've had so many situations where I have felt like I've had to do that to a really high level, where in workplaces I've not been supported. So I've just programmed myself to do that. And I feel like I'm slowly trying to deprogram myself from it. But I do mask a lot. And I think masking pain can be really tricky to unmask that. And it can be really dangerous as well. I think, especially when I've had surgeries, I do it where I'm like, "Oh, I don't feel too bad." And I remember when I had my surgery last year, the nurse, every 20 minutes, like, "How's your pain? What's it on a scale of 1 to 10? And before I was going home, I was like, "It's like an 8. And she's like, "You're not going home on an 8. And I thought, I am. Because to me, it's high, but
it's not a 10.
But to me, I'm like, it might be high pain, but to me, unless I'm literally screaming on the floor, crying in pain, and I'm like, I'm ready to go to A&E, I'm like, I can manage everything else. Which, yes, in a way, is good in some ways, but equally, I think if you don't acknowledge it, that's when you burn out quicker.
Absolutely.
And I'm not very good at sometimes spotting the signs of that. I think sometimes I ignore the signs as well because I'm very much like, I want to do these things. I don't want to let people down. I think that's a big thing for me, and a big thing around ADHD as well is that rejection sensitivity. You feel like you're letting people down, like you want to do everything. I am a bit of a people pleaser as well. I always think about everyone else's feelings before my own. Because I always have this idea that if I'm not doing everything for everyone, then I'm not a good friend, I'm not a good wife, I'm not a good daughter. And it's so wrong and so silly. But I've always felt like that. I've always felt like I need to really prove myself. And I think when you are put in situations like workplaces and anything else, you just develop that. And as you get older, it's just harder to unlearn. But I'm really... being in my 30s, I'm trying to not give a shit so much, essentially, and put myself first more and have really solid boundaries, but communicate with people more. Like, if I'm doing emails or I'm at events or anything, I say to people, like, this is my plethora of conditions. This is what I struggle with. This is what I find difficult, and really own it rather than feeling ashamed of it.
I think what the hard thing is there is, even if you're telling people that you've got PMDD or you've got endometriosis or you've got a flare, they might not understand what that exactly means for you. And they might not have either the knowledge or the capacity to know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
We've spoken about this previously. Do you think there's a certain level of years of masking have led to it being a part of our lives as people who live with chronic illnesses? And I've personally had this, I'm not sure if you have. I've been to doctor's surgeries and hospitals where I've either been, you know, say if it's after work or something, and I've been, you know, I've got makeup on or I'm wearing a nice outfit, but I don't look physically ill. It's an invisible illness. I personally feel like I haven't been believed. And then that's where the gaslighting and the kind of the comments of, you know, is it that bad? Are you sure it's all that, you know, it's that bad? Or is this in your head? Have you felt any of that within your journey?
I do. And I think about it every time I go to an appointment, especially with new consultants or new doctors. And I've even had it a couple of times where when they write back to the doctors, they're like, oh, met with Gabriella. She's a really presentable, nice young woman. I like the young bit when they put that on there.
Yeah.
But it almost kind of, I don't know, it kind of feels like a backwards thing of, well, she looked okay. And I think it's really tricky because sometimes people say as well, like, male doctors, they're the worst, but the worst situations I've had are with female doctors, because I sometimes think they think, well, I've not been through it and no one I know, so it can't be that bad. But I would have it as well with doctors, but I'd have it in work settings with friends and stuff. People saying, oh, well, you look okay, so you must be all right then. And for me, the correlation of wanting to externally feel good does not correlate with internally, because I've had times where we had our charity event last year and I was 6 weeks post-op because I don't do anything by halves, and I had a really bad infection post-op, and I had to put on an evening dress. I had to get my hair done, my makeup done. Everyone was like, oh, you look great, like, are you better now? I'm like, no, I'm probably like the worst I've ever been. I was having a mental breakdown and crying the morning of the event, saying to Anna, I was like, I don't think I can do this tonight. So I think it's just people learning that the two don't marry together at all. But I've had that with doctors, and equally as well, like when I take my walking stick in with me, they kind of look at me like, why do you need that?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of misconceptions, and it's things around like, I have a blue badge for parking. Oh God, the looks you get. And I've had people come up to me and like, you know, this is a disabled space. And I'm like, you know, I've got a badge. So it's all of these misconceptions and the masking. And even now I'm like, oh, I'm getting better, but I always feel a bit uncomfortable if I have to park in a disabled space. I'm going to because I need it, but I'm just waiting for someone to say something. Or if I need to use my radar key for disabled toilets, because I get that as well. Like when I was at Victoria, a lady was like, this is the disabled toilet queue. And I was like, yes, I know, I've got my key, thank you. So I just think there's so many layers to it. It just makes it 10 times harder for people, because then you do feel like I do just have to mask. I have to pretend I'm okay, because we're not what you deem the picture of what chronically ill and disabled people look like, whatever that picture is. But people have a very specific picture of what that looks like in their head. And if you don't fall into that box, then you just fall down the cracks.
And and I find, with myself, I have to justify things a lot. And the more I justify things, the more, it looks like it's, I don't know, that I'm complaining about my health, or I'm being made the victim. And it's not like that at all.
No.
I would love to talk about the Menstrual Health Project now, and the advocacy that you lead on with Anna. So shout out to Anna. Woo. Through your journey, I can, listeners and I can understand what has brought you to that point. But when was the Menstrual Health Project founded? And can you tell us all about that, please?
I love telling this story because me and Anna always chuckle when we tell it. So when I started my Instagram 5 years ago, I started talking to Anna on there, and I used to run a podcast. I used to do a remote one, and Anna, I think, was one of my first guests. Anna used to do an Instagram series called Menstrual Mondays, and we just clicked straight away. We live opposite ends. I'm down in West Sussex, Anna's all the way up in North Wales. And we just got really, really good friends. And she said to me, do you want to come up to North Wales, bring the dog, bring the husband, just come and stay for the weekend? Absolutely no stranger danger. I ended up staying for a week, and our friendship just grew and grew and grew. And Anna also has an amazing presence within the community as well. So we were both just getting so many messages from people just in despair, not knowing what to do with their health journey, trying to access pathways, trying to get referrals, and just meeting so many roadblocks with it. Me and Anna were just so frustrated and fed up. So we just decided to start something together. Menstrual Health Project was never going to be a charity. It was going to be a community group, and we thought we'd just dip in and out a little bit and do a couple of things, because we were like, it's probably not realistic for two really chronically ill people to start a charity with no experience. But we then did our first toolkit with a brand called BU, so they do natural pain relief patches, and they asked to do a endometriosis diagnostic toolkit with us. And we loved doing it. And it's everything from symptoms all the way through to speaking to your doctor, to tracking your symptoms and being able to advocate for yourself. And it got such great feedback. Me and Anna delusionally was sitting around her kitchen table and thought, should we just start the charity? What is the worst that can happen? It's different. It's not like a business. You don't need to put any assets, any money, any equity in. You can start one and we can just see where it takes us. No expectations. And then it's just absolutely grown. So we started Menstrual Health Project in 2022, January 2022, and then we've been registered since February 2023. So not long at all. We're still in our infancy as a charity, and we've now brought out our menstrual health for under 18s toolkit, which is basically everything you're not taught at school, from knowing what a normal period is, to period products, to tracking your cycles, to different conditions. And again, that had great feedback, and it's been used in so many schools and colleges and universities, and it's really comprehensive and age appropriate. So it's not going to scare young people. It's got all of the information so you can learn about your health. And then we've just launched our adult menstrual health guide as well. So again, it's everything in the under 18s, but other things that you should be taught as you get older. So gynae cancers, cervical screenings, pelvic floor dysfunction, menopause, all these different things. But for me and Anna, our aim was to educate people and make them feel empowered and equipped, whatever stage, whether it's menstruation through to menopause. And we do this with our toolkits and going into schools and workplaces, and just trying to give some practical support now for people, because we always look so far to the future when it comes to health conditions for cures and treatments, which are really important, but people need things now day to day. And for us, having that knowledge is so empowering. And I think for us, and I didn't realise the disparity between England and Wales, where Anna's in Wales, the healthcare system is very different. And I think I was a bit naive to it. Again, it's kind of, you're not taught about these things. You don't learn about these things at school, how your healthcare system works. So for us, I think it's healed us both along the way. And our friendships just flourished, but the charity has just flourished, and what we've been able to do and working with other charities and advocates and really trying to make a difference for people it's just really rewarding.
Yeah, it's amazing. I know you've got some events towards the end of the year, and I'm supporting at one of them, and I can't wait. Where do you think the biggest changes are needed now in gynae care? And if you had a magic wand, what would you do with that magic wand to kind of change things from the ground up?
Oh, how much magic do I have in this one? I think there's so many layers of it. And I think it's an approach where everywhere needs to change together. And that starts with education in schools. That's really important that people are getting that education in schools. Education in workplaces. We need education for GPs. So I believe that GPs, it was an optional rotation and kind of extra that they learn about conditions like endometriosis and menstrual health. So I believe that now it's becoming more mandatory that they're getting more training, but how much training that is, I don't know. But I think it's really important that all primary care know about these conditions and are able to have clear pathways for people, because we have nice guidelines, but what's the point of having guidelines if they're not being followed? It just seems redundant. So I think having clearer pathways and better services for people, we need more money. Money is the most important thing for it, because we need more doctors training to become specialists, and not just consultants, but nurses as well. Surgeons, it's a whole approach to it to try and cut down the waiting times. We need more staff doing these things. We need more radiographers and sonographers trained when they're doing scans. There's just so many things. I think one big thing that isn't necessarily money driven is just having continuity across the UK when it comes to pathways, with referrals, because what might happen in one care board could be completely different at another care board. And I just think that's really unfair, because it's almost breeding a bit of hierarchy then, depending where you live, postcode lottery. I think that is where we really need to start. We need to get those waiting times down. And also it's multidisciplinary. It's not just you have a surgery and that's it. It's looking at if your bowel's impacted, your bladder's impacted, you have chronic pain, then you are being supported, whether it's pelvic floor physio, whether it's pain management, and not just saying to people, here you go, here's some medication or the pill or chemical menopause, off you go.
Yeah.
So there's so many things to it. But I think also you need mental health support, whether you've had a laparoscopy or whether you've had a stoma or whether you've had a hysterectomy, you should just get mental health support automatically. So there's lots of different elements. But that's what I would have wanted when I was younger, having more information. And that's why we've done the toolkits, because the information that's available already is so sparse. It's not detailed. For me, I wanted to know the good, the bad, and the ugly. I want everything laid out for me so I can make an informed decision. And a lot of people don't get that. Some people are having surgeries and not even getting a post-op appointment. So the start to finish, whether you're trying to get diagnosed all the way through, there needs to be a proper pathway for that and clear kind of marker points of the things along the way that you should get.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. If a woman is in pain right now and they're not sure what their condition might be, as someone who's got lived experience with this, what would your top tips be for someone to advocate better for themselves if they feel like their GP or their doctor at a hospital isn't listening to them?
I would say ask for a second opinion first. I would first see if it's your GP, see if you've got a GP that specialises in women's health. I would say if it's someone you've seen at the hospital, see what their credentials are, if they're the person that's the right fit. If not, asked to be referred to someone else. And when you've got that name, I Google or go on LinkedIn, I check them out, stalk vibes, but I want to know who I'm seeing, because if they're not the right person, I don't want to see them. It's a waste of time. And then I would say that one thing one of my friends, Tina, taught me, which is a really good tip, is that if you're asking for something and they're refusing to give it to you, ask them to note it down that they've refused it, because 9 times out of 10, they then will be like, oh no, that's fine, I'll do it, because they don't want it to go down. It's a very good tip from Tina. She runs endo flow retreats. She's incredible.
I've met Tina. Yes, I know Tina.
Yeah, so Tina taught me that tip. She's incredible. I would also say don't be afraid if you need to make a complaint, because to me, you're not complaining for the sake of it. You're not being difficult. It's your health at the end of the day. If you're not getting the care and the treatment that you need, I would complain. You can do that through PALS, or if you feel that you're not getting anywhere with PALS, or if it's with the GP, you can speak to your local MP. I would just say have a look at the avenues, because there are the right channels to complain, to get the care that you need. But trust yourself. That's the most important thing. Like, you know your body more than anyone else. And if you feel like you're not getting anywhere on your own, there's organisations like Menstrual Health Project and other channels that you can contact us. And I'm a really good complaint writer.
Oh, amazing. So where can people find and follow your work for the Menstrual Health Project?
So we are on Instagram, LinkedIn and Facebook. Oh, and we're on TikTok now. We're super cool, down with the kids. Not that I do any of TikTok.
So of you.
Do you know what? When we were setting it up, me and Anna were like, who's going to do it? I was like, I don't want to do it. So yeah, we're on all of those, just Menstrual Health Project. And if anyone needs to reach out to us, you can reach out to us on any of those channels.
Yeah, I'll link to in the show notes as well.
I'll
link everywhere. And finally, what does owning space mean to you after everything that you've been through?
I think owning space means allowing yourself to be vulnerable, to feel what you need to feel as well, owning what's happened to me, but then deciding, taking charge of it for myself. There's so many things I can't control. So the things that I can control, I'm going to try and make the best that I can. And I'm not saying that the only way people can kind of heal is to start a charity, because honestly, it's hard work. But just finding something you're really passionate about, I think, is really important. And for me, I've had a really difficult time with being chronically ill, but now I am just trying to enjoy the things that I can when I can, and just allowing myself to rest and take it easy when possible.
That's amazing. Gabz, you've been such a fantastic guest.
Thanks for having me.
You've been so inspirational. I wish you all the best and the most healing kind of positive vibes that I can give you.
Thank you.
I'm so looking forward to keeping in touch with you and working with you over the next few months as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Owning Space. If you enjoyed the episode, please do follow, rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you're tuning in from. It really helps more people find these conversations. So see you next time.